So good evening. On behalf of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, I would like to welcome you here tonight. The primary purpose of tonight's meeting is to give you an opportunity to provide comments on the Rover pipeline project planned by Rover Pipeline LLC. I am Kara Harris, and I'm an environmental project manager in FERC's Office of Energy Projects. Jim Martin to my immediate left and Amanda Martinet to my right are also with the FERC. Jennifer Ward to my far left is a project manager with Cardno Entrix. Cardno is an environmental consulting firm assisting us in the production of the Environmental Impact Statement, or EIS, that will be prepared for the project. We encourage you, if you know specific routes that you would prefer FERC to look into and also to get Rover to look into, to please file them in the record. If you can give us road locations, if you don't have a map, even tonight we did take down some details. If you want to go to the back table on your way out. That's for everyone. If you know an alternative, you live here, and when we're looking at this route, we don't necessarily know what you're thinking and your concerns. So letting us know that while we're evaluating will help us greatly. So please take the time after the meeting to make sure we get those specific details down and we can look into that.
Are we consensual?
The next speaker is Robert Farley.
My name is Robert Farley. I'm a landowner in Elmont Township. I'm not a paid consultant to ET Rover or a professional speaker like many other people we've heard from this evening. So my comments are from the standpoint of a landowner and a citizen of Michigan. The stated purpose of the proposed pipeline project is to transport natural gas being produced by means of hydrofracking in the Marcellus region of West Virginia. The proposed pipeline will transport unrefined natural gas through several upper Midwest states to a processing facility in Ontario, Canada. The environmental consequences of hydrofracking are unknown, but concerns have been raised that the quantity of toxic chemicals injected deep into the ground and the use of massive quantities of fresh water needed to perform hydrofracking have the potential to significantly damage the freshwater aquifers needed for agriculture and domestic consumption. I'm opposed to continued hydrofracking operations until such time that unbiased scientific study confirms the complete safety of these practices. Furthermore, according to a New York Times article published January 28, 2012, the estimated quantity of natural gas available for extraction in the Marcellus region has been greatly reduced, as reported by the U.S. Energy Information Administration. In January of 2012, the estimates available indicated that a 6-year supply of natural gas was available from the Marcellus shales. Considering the proposed pipeline is not scheduled for completion until 2017, it would appear that the resources planned for this pipeline may be nearly exhausted before the line is in service. The existence of the proposed pipeline would encourage the spread of hydrofracking operations outside of the Marcellus region when those supplies are exhausted, or possibly before. Extending such reckless operations into the environmentally unique and priceless Great Lakes region would be short-sighted and foolhardy. Continuing to seize private land, imperil natural environments and ecosystems, and invest vast financial resources to perpetuate dependency on a finite and environmentally destructive energy source does not appear to be in the interest of the citizens or the nation. The proposed routing of the Rover pipeline will disrupt forested land with mature stands of trees throughout much of the currently planned route. The stated need for a 100-foot wide construction easement will destroy thousands of acres of forest and other vegetation. In areas of mature forest, the trees destroyed cannot be replaced and would take generations to regrow a similar forest. A permanent easement will prevent reforestation of the land thus disrupted. On my own property, the originally proposed pipeline route would destroy scores of mature white oak and maple trees, many in excess of 36 inches in caliber and 80 feet in height. Michigan State University campus construction standards place a value of $30,000 to $40,000 apiece for trees of this size. It's unlikely that individual landowners will be compensated fairly for this loss of property, nor will the citizens at large be compensated for the degradation of the natural environment resulting from this type of destruction. The proposed route through Lapeer County in southeast Michigan crosses many wetland areas. On my own property, the proposed line will disturb wetland, encroach on the unique Linwood muck agricultural soils, and lie within the drainage area and floodplain of Bell River. In Elmont Township, the residences located in agricultural property immediately south of Bell River are considered well-sensitive properties. My own well was difficult to establish and required a significant investment in treatment equipment to produce an adequate domestic water supply. Clean water aquifers are difficult to locate and tap due to the heavy clay soils extending uninterrupted to bedrock levels. Wells extending into the bedrock are obtainable, but often produce sediment-contaminated water and/or saltwater brine that's useless. The type of heavy equipment and soil disturbance necessary to construct the proposed line will potentially damage established private wells, rendering them useless. Personal experience with the existing pipeline construction and easements has revealed that soil productivity on agricultural land has been reduced for decades. The compaction of soils, disturbance of topsoil, and unnatural responses to freeze-thaw cycles directly over the buried pipelines all appear to negatively impact the agricultural productivity of the soil. I strongly object to the practice of granting power of eminent domain to private corporations for use in seizing private land for-profit corporations. Thank you. The justifying logic supporting the concept of eminent domain assumes that national public need can supersede private property rights. The proposed Rover pipeline will transport unrefined natural gas to Canada. It's difficult to identify any benefit from this project to the affected landowners and the citizens of the United States, considering the gas and line between Shiawassee County, Michigan, and Ontario, Canada will not be distributed for use anywhere in the U.S. It would appear that the covert motivation of E.T. Rover is to establish a conduit for the exportation of natural gas surplus supply to foreign markets for profits exceeding what can be obtained in domestic markets with the current depressed natural gas prices. Furthermore, I've repeatedly asked E.T. Rover why the proposed construction would not occur entirely within the existing Trans-Canada gas pipeline easement that diagonally crosses the Pure County and extends to the same location in Canada as the proposed new line. I've been told that Trans-Canada, quote, will not permit, unquote, another pipeline within their easement. I fail to understand why the power of eminent domain would apply to my private property, but would not be used to compel Trans-Canada to accept lines within their easement, especially considering the easement that Trans-Canada owns does not confer ownership of that private land. The practice of continually carving up private land for the benefit of large corporations is not consistent with the fundamental principles of private property and individual sovereignty guaranteed by the Constitution. Granting power of eminent domain to E.T. Rover effectively nullifies any legal rights of private landowners to control the use and development of their own property. In my own case, my property has been enrolled for more than 40 years in the state of Michigan Farmlands and Open Space Preservation Act. Granting a private for-profit corporation legal power to use my property for commercial industrial uses contrary to my wishes is entirely inconsistent with the intent of the preservation program and would squander the investment the state of Michigan and the taxpayers have made in protecting these properties. The originally proposed route of the Rover pipeline through my property will bisect an open meadow that was the location of the Bell Arbor settlement in the 1840s. The original settlement was founded as a utopian community near the banks of Bell River by Reverend Shaw. Many of the original settlers are buried in the nearby Webster Cemetery. I've established a landscape art project on the site of the Bell Arbor community using new landscape planning in conjunction with mature trees that appear to have been planted by the original settlers. In the early 1850s, my great-great-grandfather purchased my property after the failure of the original and abandonment of the original Bell Arbor settlement. My land has been continuously owned by members of my family for more than 160 years. The proposed construction will disrupt the integrity of this registered centennial farm and will potentially destroy the cultural significance of the Bell Arbor site that is yet to be fully examined and documented, as well as destroying my landscape art installation. Many citizens and local community government officials have expressed concern over the safety of the proposed pipeline. The extremely high pressure and large size of the proposed line, one of the largest that would exist in the United States if constructed, create safety concerns for many residents living near such installations. Ironically, there were multiple natural gas line leaks and failures that occurred at the same time that E.T. Rover was surveying property in southeast Michigan. One such leak, explosion, and fire occurred in Prudhoe, Saskatchewan on October 11, 2014, which burned out of control for almost a week. Residents had to be evacuated from their homes. In September 2014, a natural gas pipeline leak in Berrien County, Michigan, resulted in the evacuation of 500 residents, contamination of agricultural crops, establishment of roadblocks, disruption of community services, government expense, and endangerment of private citizens' life and property. Michigan residents and government are still dealing with the consequences of the Enbridge pipeline leak in the Kalamazoo River in July of 2010. These are only 3 recent examples. A simple search of the internet reveals an extensive list of pipeline accidents in the U.S. just within the last 15 years, emphasizing the unpredictable and erratic safety record of all energy pipelines. It has been noted by several sources that the proposed pipeline extending across unsecured, rural, private land presents a threat to national homeland security, an opportunity for terrorist action using simple, improvised explosive devices to create massive devastation. The increased danger proposed by the proposed construction is very real, and the compensation to citizens in affected areas is not adequate to protect them from this threat. One of the many vague assertions made by E.T. Rover in planning this project involves the benefit to local economies. E.T. Rover stated tonight and other times that local jobs would be created by this project. Having seen firsthand the economic effects of an existing pipeline corridor on my property, I can attest that no local employment has resulted in the decades that these lines have been in existence. It is interesting to note that the survey operations undertaken by E.T. Rover in Southeast Michigan have utilized out-of-state survey companies and workers. A crew of more than 30 individuals surveyed my property on October 18th. The crew arrived in more than 12 vehicles, not one of which was licensed in Michigan, and not one of the workers was a Michigan resident. This example illustrates the insincerity of E.T. Rover in providing accurate information or protecting the interests of the citizens. If the FERC determines that there is a need for additional pipeline construction within the U.S. to serve the Marcellus region, then I would strongly urge consideration of less disruptive alternatives than that represented by the Rover pipeline project. At the very least, new pipeline construction should be limited, whenever possible, to be located entirely within existing utility easements. This use of existing easements would minimize the impact on private property and ecosystems, as the land within these easements has already been compromised by existing utility construction. Consideration should also be given to modifying existing practices to allow construction of such pipelines within interstate freeway right-of-ways. These freeway right-of-ways are already owned by the citizens, and use of land within these right-of-ways would eliminate further encroachment on the property of private citizens. I would also urge the FERC to give due consideration to consideration to competing pipeline project proposals that would utilize portions of existing lines to serve the same Marcellus region, and would thereby greatly reduce the amount of new construction necessary. This use of existing infrastructure would obviously result in less construction-related disruption of private land and environmental damage. In representing the federal government, I believe the FERC has a duty to consider the needs of the nation and the rights and well-being of individual citizens. Use of the questionable and finite resources of the Marcellus region and the environmentally reckless practice of hydrofracking do not represent a long-term sustainable energy policy for the nation. The Rover pipeline is not planned to cross Lapeer County, Michigan until after mid-August of this year. As has been noted by other speakers tonight, the proposed route has changed several times in the months that we've been aware of. E.T. Rover has never clearly stated why the earlier proposed route through Oakland County, Michigan was abandoned, and why the current proposal was preferable. Since relocation of the proposed route, E.T. Rover has pressured local landowners very aggressively to permit surveys to the extent of issuing written correspondence via certified mail, threatening legal action if permission was not granted. This was done with no prior notification of local government officials, and with very vague information offered at public meetings and via Rover printed corporate propaganda. In Lapeer County, Michigan, the private citizen government opposition to the proposed project is widespread and unequivocal. Resolutions opposing the proposed project have been passed by the Lapeer County Board of Commissioners, Lapeer Township, Elmont Township, Inley City Township, Berlin Township, Hadley Township, and Lapeer County Road Commission, just to name a few local examples. Similar opposition has been filed by government bodies in other Michigan counties and the Sierra Club. The response of private landowners and citizens has been similarly widespread and unequivocally opposed to the proposed project. Michigan's Congresswoman Candace Miller has also recorded her opposition to the Rover pipeline project as currently proposed. In consideration of the current widespread opposition, the concerns for the cumulative negative impact on agriculture, safety, the environment, and property values, I urge the FERC to deny permission to EC Rover for the proposed construction. At the very least, I request that any decision to proceed be delayed until January of 2018, giving the state of Michigan, local government, and private citizens time to gather facts, review alternatives, and give adequate time for citizens to organize and represent their needs and concerns in dealing with the aggressive plans of a large corporation with financial and legal powers greatly in excess of any private citizens. If any approval is ultimately granted, I would request that the power of eminent domain be removed from such approval so the private citizens' property rights are not effectively eliminated. Thank you.
My name is Ann Sousanis, S-O-U-S-A-N-I-S. I'm from Lapeer County. Appreciate the chance to speak, helping to formulate an environmental impact statement tonight. And I appreciate the different categories that were listed in the booklet that I received. As far as a need for the project, in 2012, the Energy Transfer Company made a request to the FERC to abandon its trunkline gas pipeline through Michigan and convert it to oil because the additional gas capacity wasn't needed. And I'm skipping around trying to follow some of the points that you had in your booklet. As far as impact on water resources, Lapeer County, and I'm from Lapeer County, if I didn't say that already. Lapeer County has nearly 20,000 acres of wetlands, 3 rivers, and 4 or 5 watersheds, depending on who's doing the figuring. And along with that, with the impact on watersheds, according to MSU Extension, freshwater mussels, which live in these rivers, are one of the most endangered groups of animals in North America. The Bell River, which is in Lapeer County and would be impacted by the pipeline. The Bell River has one of the most diverse mussel populations in Michigan and has several known locations of rare and threatened species. Also, along with that information on watersheds, the Flint River watershed is home to the Metamora-Hadley Recreation Area, Ortonville State Recreation Area, and Sutherland Nature Center. Not only will the pipeline disrupt these public lands, but in some areas it goes through officially designated wetlands on private property that technically cannot be disturbed, but there it is. Continuing a little bit with threatened and endangered species, Lapeer County's natural areas provide or are adjacent to critical habitat for a variety of plant and animal species, including many endangered, threatened, and special concern species. And these are all listed with the Michigan Natural Features Inventory of the different counties in the state, including Lapeer County. As far as impacts of clearing forests land, in areas where pipeline construction has cut paths through forest, there is concern about forest fragmentation, loss of biodiversity, and invasion of invasive species. For example, Penn State University has done a study of the impact on forest-dwelling songbirds. Their study raises concerns about the impact on certain migratory species, including the hooded warbler, which I happen to be personally fond of, and it is a special concern species in Michigan. So this was a study that came out of Penn State, but we're still talking about many of the birds that we have here, as well as numerous plants and animals. As far as the impact on soil, Penn State University did research on the impact of pipelines. Soil compaction from the siting of pipelines and other natural gas activities significantly reduces soil productivity, possibly for decades. Also, replacing topsoil and subsoil correctly is a problem. Also, the soil over the pipelines, at least from this study, tends to dry out quicker because of heat from the gas flowing through the pipeline, stressing the crops quicker in dry periods. Going along with the impact on agricultural lands, regarding the September gas line rupture in Berrien County on the other side of the state, and this was just mentioned by the previous speaker, a farmer in the area was advised by the company that owns the pipeline that his 3 acres of potatoes might be contaminated and should not be harvested. Now in Lapeer County, agriculture is a very important part of our economy. There was an article in the county press back in September that noted that agriculture is Lapeer County's #1 contributor to the overall economy, with more than 1,000 active farms and hundreds of residents involved in agriculture business. Pipeline construction will disrupt existing cropland with possible impacts on soil quality and drainage patterns and could result in the loss of arable land. I know one of the topics that were in your pamphlet had to do with the impact on property values. Many of us, at least from Lapeer County, have heard the story of a resident who has a home in northern Michigan that he has been unable to sell, and the property value is down next to nothing due to its proximity to a gas well and a high-pressure pipeline. One of the things that I didn't see in the book, but it is important, has to do with the impact on roads. Many county roads, at least in Lapeer County, have dirt or gravel surfaces. In September, when E.T. Rover had its open house in Lapeer County, I asked about the truck traffic for this project. I didn't receive any answer, but the volume of trucks on rural roads, the hours of operation, the wear and tear on roads, the dust and the noise level are additional areas of concern. As far as the pipeline integrity and public safety, and this has been brought up already, this project specifies a 42-inch high-pressure pipeline to carry 3.25 billion cubic feet of raw natural gas per day. And it is my understanding that in the event of a rupture or leak, the minimum area affected would be approximately a 1,000-foot radius in any direction. And this is in the path of homes, farms, and farmland. Some residents, as I believe had already been mentioned, have 3 pipelines running through their property. This is not only a safety issue, but additional burden on police, fire, and EMS facilities. And then going back to the pipeline rupture in Berrien County, which caused 500 residents within a 1-mile radius of the leak to leave their homes. Also, I read an article from the Pittsburgh Tribune Review. An investigation found that state and federal regulators employ far too few inspectors, about 500 total, to cover the country's 1.3 million miles of mains that distribute natural gas directly to customers. Nearly 500,000 leaks were reported on those lines last year. And then finally, the last point having to do with this natural gas coming from fracking operations in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Ohio. We talked about, it's been mentioned, some of the concerns and potential hazards from fracking operations. The other end of the fracking operation are the injection wells, where the permanently contaminated water has to be placed theoretically forever. Pennsylvania, it's my understanding, has only 5 injection wells, which are insufficient to store the millions of gallons of permanently contaminated wastewater from fracking operations. Much of this now is being sent to Ohio, and there's been speculation that Michigan could become the next site for injection wells for contaminated water from other states. High-volume fracking and injection wells pose many serious issues, including contaminated groundwater and well water from the chemicals used in fracking, the use and taking of millions of gallons of fresh water per well, the strain on a community's resources with the rapid influx of hundreds of out-of-state workers, and the leakage of contaminated wastewater from injection wells into groundwater. So, in conclusion, this is a very serious issue. I think that applaud that you have to get all the information that you can get. And I'm willing to continue looking for more information to help further make this a clearer process. But I'm very concerned about it. Thank you.
My name is Alan Lee, M-E-A-D, first name is Alan, A-L-A-N. I received a phone call yesterday from a representative from the Labor's Local 1191, and he asked me if I would come to just attend. When I saw the opportunity to speak, I do have some very strong opinions and thoughts about natural gas as compared to other fuels. So I felt compelled to say what I think about it. I'm not a professional public speaker. I am a member of that local union, but I just joined recently because I had to take an early retirement from the Carpenters Local 687 because of the collapse of the economy. I'm a private consultant contractor. I also study economics. And there are many factors that have impacted our environment in our country. Starting in '71, OPEC was put together by the offer of Richard Nixon to provide military support to Saudi Arabia. You've seen what happens with oil. Dependency on oil, that's a catchphrase that everyone's aware of and everyone uses. The thing that concerns me is having worked on many infrastructure projects, including the Fermi nuclear plants, Marathon Oil, Rouge Steel Complex Towers, many other construction projects. I've seen that important thing that we need to consider is what direction is the country headed? What can we do to improve in any way possible the capability of the country to support itself, not be so dependent on foreign energy? Foreign energy is a tool at times. Can be used for our good or against us. Natural gas and the delivery of it is so important to the United States. It's the cleanest fuel there is, second only to hydrogen. But we don't produce hydrogen. Maybe that's in the future. The only pollution produced by hydrogen is water vapor. Natural gas is clean. There is some pollution involved, but not to the degree of the coal burners I've worked on. I've worked on the ones in Monroe. I've worked on the ones in St. Clair. Sulfur dioxide, even though it's regulated and controlled, DTE, Detroit Edison, still has emissions that at times exceed the state regulations. There was a lawsuit by the Sierra Club in regard to those excess emissions. I personally have asthma. I can tell when DTE is exceeding those emissions. I live in Oakland County, in Troy, so we receive the air from the east, from St. Clair. We also receive the air when it blows north from Monroe. So, until hydrogen gas is pure fuel that could be used, The cleanest fuel is natural gas. And the capacity to deliver in any way possible is what's necessary. It's true that people's lives can be impacted by the course that this pipeline takes. That's for you to decide, the panel to decide. And hopefully the right decisions will be made. You know, in the United States, they call Michigan, especially southeast Michigan, it has a nickname. It's called Cancer Alley. Why is that? Sulfur dioxide has a lot to do with it. Burning oil has a lot to do with it. All types of pollution, and the fact that many industrial workers are exposed to these things has quite a bit to do with it. But one speaker mentioned that are the short-term benefits are what we're looking at here. And the words public convenience was mentioned. Maybe we're going in the wrong direction. Well, anything that can be done to improve the delivery of a cleaner fossil fuel is necessary. And in the future, if they abandon natural gas and fracking procedures or development, maybe there's something that would be used that could be cleaner than that. At least we'll have the infrastructure to support it. The infrastructure situation is serious. The bridges are crumbling. Southfield Freeway, pieces of concrete fall right off. I-94, same thing. So the total infrastructure needs to be continually maintained, rebuilt, and improved. And having the capacity to, or maybe the excess capacity to deliver natural gas, I think is the best thing for the country. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Dan Houston.
Good evening, my name is Dan Husted, H-U-S-T-E-D. I am business manager of Labor's Local 1075 out of Flint. Should this pipeline go through, it will go through 4 of the counties that I represent, being Shiawassee, Genesee, Lapeer, and St. Clair County, where I represent 600 members that live along that area, and would greatly, for those that think that construction is a part-time job, to our members it's a career. It's how they raise their family, it's how they send their kids to school, it's how they get their health care. So we are very enthusiastic supporters of modernizing our existing pipeline infrastructure. LIUNA members have been safely building pipelines for more than a century. We build pipelines in virtually every state. In just the last year, LIUNA members helped more than 100 pipeline operators and other trades build and maintain projects. Each year, LIUNA trains about 150,000 workers and invests $100 million in training workers. We have more than 70 fixed and mobile training centers which offer accredited hands-on training and certifications, including 164 hours of pipeline-specific construction, and 3 of those are in Michigan, 1 in Wayne County, 1 in Perry, and 1 in the UP. Safety is the cornerstone of our training. We are committed to keeping workers and communities safe, and we advocate for policies that do that. We fight for contractors to use skilled workers, and whenever possible, local workers, so that the communities where pipelines are built benefit the most. We encourage local officials and regulatory agencies to take into account the impact a pipeline project has on the workforce by requiring disclosure of training requirements and their commitment to hiring a diverse force of local residents. We have built many pipelines throughout Michigan, and it would be nice for members that I represent to actually have a project that's in their backyard as opposed to traveling to another state or a project that's 3 to 4 hours away to go to work. So I am here hoping that this pipeline goes through to help my members out. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments so far. I just would like to remind everyone of the 5-minute limit. We have about 16 more people signed up on the speakers list, and if you multiply that by 5, it's about an hour and a half. So just reminding you of the 5-minute limit to make sure we do get to the rest of the people on the list. Thank you.
Next is Lynn Coleman.
Good evening, and thank you for being here to hear our comments tonight. My name is Lynn Coleman, C-O-L-E-M-A-N. I'm the training director for Michigan Labor's Training and Apprenticeship Institute. Mr. Husted just talked about our 3 locations, the city of Wayne, Perry, and Iron Mountain. We are an affiliate training fund for Labor's International Union of North America. We cover the training in the state of Michigan for our labor union members. And with the labor union members that we have here, Dan mentioned a little bit about that, so I'm going to eliminate quite a bit of my talking points so we don't have to hear that again. The training that we do not only trains them to take care of their covered tasks and their job specific categories, it also trains them in safety, efficiency, and it also teaches them to respect the land and the community in which they're working as if it was their own. Our members live in the great state of Michigan, like everyone in this room. We want to protect it, we want to take care of it, and first of all, we want to return home to a safe home, and we want the community that we're leaving when we're leaving work to do the same. Every day there are things transported by rail and highway across the state. No one has any idea of what's going past their neighborhoods by rail or by highway. Natural gas pipelines are far less hazardous, as the gentleman earlier stated. I believe he said 99.99 and some other numbers, safety factor. And that can be found on Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration site. Excuse me, I lost my spot for a minute. I just wanted to be up here to let you know and be assured, as well as the community members, that between the Labor's International Union of North America members here in the state of Michigan and our other union brothers and sisters, the other trades that are represented here in the room, everything that we do is going to be with the utmost respect for the property, with the safest and most efficient workforce available. And with that, every member that comes in here, as we said, is from the state of Michigan. We've got other trades that were here and spoke tonight about, they're here, they've got members in the state. The Teamsters spoke earlier. Everyone has a stake in this game. Nobody wants to see coal plants, nobody wants to see nuclear plants. We have an obligation to the state and to our local ecosystems to reduce the carbon footprint. I believe this is the best way we can reduce our carbon footprint. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mark Lacey.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Mark Police, P-U-L-I-C-E. I am a Lyuna member, 35 years, Labor's Local 1191. I've worked in the construction industry my entire working life. A lot has been said about this pipeline before. They are important jobs for us. I guess to some of the residents here, on a personal note, I'll leave it short. My current residence, where my wife and I raised our twins, and now where my granddaughter plays, directly abuts a consumer's energy gas pipeline. My granddaughter's swing set is right in the middle of the pipeline. We have never felt threatened or been put in harm's way. There has been repair work, the crews were respectful, and our properties were restored to mine and our neighbors' satisfaction. So with that, I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Next speaker is Tom Hutchinson. Tom Hutchinson. Mark Ellis.
Hi, my name is Mark Ellis, and I've lived in Richmond 54 years. I'm a small business owner, self-employed, and biggest thing I've learned is we have to look into the future. This is not only good for the community, but it's good for the state of Michigan, the United States of America, and the whole world, actually. I really can't see a problem with us having a large natural gas pipeline coming through. I mean, even if we don't need it for 40 years. And unfortunately, I don't have any kids, so I don't really have to worry about the future, but it's something that we should address. And especially with the ET Rover company, they're gonna pay for everything, and they're not asking for any out-of-pocket expenses or nothing. It's gonna come through. I own a piece of property up north where they put in, not ET Rover, but natural gas pipeline, put it in, and now you can't even tell that it's there. And I think it's awesome. We need it, and that way we're, self-sufficient or whatever. And like I said before, it's not a question of if, but when. And lastly, I just want to, actually there's a couple things. A lot of people don't know this, but I'm glad that they put this forum on, because if you study the law, the Michigan Zoning and Enabling Act says that you cannot regulate nor you can control the drilling operation or the construction of an oil or gas line, period. So it is what it is. And there's an old saying too, a lot of people, I like this one, a NIMBY. A lot of people agree that we have to have it, but not in my backyard. And what they're doing is legal, and I think I was writing on a lot of stuff there, and I had no teleprompter. But if you don't like the laws, just do like everybody else does. Get out, vote, and change it if you don't like it, but beware, because an executive order could derail everything. So that's just the way it is, that's all I have to say. But, I approve of the gas pipeline, and I think it's good for the state and the United States and the world. It's a commodity, so it's good. And thanks for your time.
Thank you. Speaker is Douglas Pruitt.
Good evening. My name is Douglas Pruitt, P-R-E-W-I-T-T. I own a small parcel here in Macomb County, 10 acres, and my back 4 acres currently has a pipeline on it. There's been a lot of talk tonight about using the existing pipeline that is there, the existing easement. It's my understanding that this new line will actually be right outside my back door, probably about 200 feet or 150 feet out my back door. My original intent was, when I bought this house, is to build a barn and to have horses. My understanding, I'm not going to be able to build a barn anywhere in the back, and that's the reason why I bought this place. So I'm quickly running out of land here with all the pipelines running through. I think using the existing easement that they have would really be beneficial. I know it would be in my case. In this case here, if it does go in where they've got it proposed, my 10-acre farm is going to be down to about 4 acres that I can use. So, if you can help me with that, that would be much appreciated. And the other thing that I've got 2 gas lines running through the property, but yet we can't get gas down our road. I have to buy propane, which is very expensive. I was told, I should have did my homework, but I was told that the gas line was going to be run down our road. And it's not, so, you know, running out of land quick, and I get no benefit from it, so that's all I have.
Thank you. Next speaker is Catherine Keeves Foster. Catherine Keeves Foster. We'll move on then to Pat Acciavati.
Thanks for the opportunity to address you tonight. I've installed pipeline for 50 years of my life. Let it be known that I'm not a union member, never have been. I see a lot of my old adversaries here tonight, which I didn't recognize. They never could convince me to join. But I support this pipeline construction simply because it's good for the economy of Michigan and the United States, and basically all of us, which makes it good for my children and my grandchildren. I just live down the road here, 8 or 9 miles. Last year they put a 30-inch pipeline through my property, so now I have 3. I'd like to let the landowners know that I have 78 acres there, 2 natural water courses, the Pine River and Rattle Run Creek, with more than a 50-foot differential in elevation crossing the Pine River. They installed the pipeline, very careful of erosion control, saved the topsoil. They were responsive to problems, dust, noise, even moving my mailbox when I requested it. The restoration was done promptly, and I see nothing but benefit for the majority of people involved, for the state of Michigan and for the United States. And I urge you to approve this pipeline.
Thank you. The next speaker is Dave Nysart.
Nayart?
Thank you. Dave Nayart, spell it N as in Nancy, A-E-Y-A-E-R-T. I'm a farmer in western St. Clair County, Berlin Township. But presently, I have 3 pipelines belonging to several different companies, and presently I don't even know who they are part of. But I'd like to take you back a few years, a lot of years, to my grandparents' day in Belgium. They were tenant farmers. The landowners essentially could run over what they wanted to do on your land. If they damaged crops, too bad, cry about it. So, as a lot of people did from Europe, they came to this country where they were able to secure land and believed they had land rights. Obviously, with some laws that have been put into effect by perhaps some well-minded individuals, these have been altered and kind of changed. I would like to relate now to the particulars of my land. The route with the 3 pipelines would be nice if there were a fourth pipeline to put it adjacent to those. Unfortunately, they decided to put a new route across new land, and in this case, they're crossing farmland that is very sensitive because of the nature of it. There's a mucky soil that in certain conditions, most of the year, if you try to separate 2 soils, it's just about impossible, and that comes from farming experiences because they generally blend in the same, and until you get these separated, you can say what you want to. I've had assurances from personnel from Rover that they're going to attend that. We had gentlemen here today talk about it, that they do this with utmost care, they've experienced, and it seems that the people who are the most well-dressed, seem to say, have it in unison, but generally speaking, they don't have the land. Of course, they like somebody else to take the results from their work. I find that my experience has been that when you comment to the people of a pipeline company, they will say to you, yes, yes, yes. And in relating to a story that my dad told me about almost 60 years ago when he went for pre-induction physical, there was a young man there who had a nice hairdo, and the Army barber asked him how he'd like it cut. And he described it to him, and he promptly took the shaver and went right down the middle. So my experience has been with pipeline companies, they may give you all kinds of platitudes and good wishes, but they do what they want. Right now with the 3 pipelines, I have a hill running across my field where the pipeline goes. There's drainage issues that broke off the natural drain. Tiling couldn't probably be done across there. Back to this other property that is the sensitive soils. I've talked with the Soil Conservation Service, and they don't know quite what to do, because on the previous area, I can't farm that land. Potentially, I have 3 acres I won't be able to work. I'll still pay taxes on it, but I won't be able to use it. So, in as much as everything's supposed to be glowing by all these union people and all these economists and everybody else says, oh, this is great for the country, I say, bah humbug.
The next speaker is Mark Lowers.
I'd like to thank you for making the trip and listening to everybody's concerns. I'm a farmer, landowner, tenant farmer in St. Clair and Lapeer County. And I guess there's been a lot of good points tonight, and I don't need to rehash all those things, but a couple of things kind of stood out to me. I believe there's 3 different pipelines potentially to do this same job. I look at it as a job to move natural gas from western Pennsylvania, West Virginia, up to Michigan, Canada. And if there's 3 different ones bidding on it, or 3 different ones trying to do the job, approving all 3 of them, or maybe 2 of them would seem foolish, because it would be like, I've got 3 private companies that want to build a toll road across the country. And if you give all 3 of them eminent domain and let them go at it, all 3 will go, they'll do it, they'll wreck a lot of natural resources, and they'll all go broke. And so I guess I would strongly consider how much you need to transfer and how many companies will get the permission. I understand Rover needs to build about 800 miles and the other companies need to build somewhere in the range of 200 to 400 miles to do the same job. Another point, I'm not very smart, but I do have a degree in engineering. They said, the gentleman from Rover said that 78% of the gas would be used in the United States. My fluid dynamics would ask then, why is the largest pipe going to Canada? And Rover was proud of 80% of the pipeline being in agricultural land. And I have concerns about that, because I spend my life trying to feed this country and most of the world. A lot of people spoke about demand for fuel in the future, and I agree. But at the same time, the world's population is going to grow by more than 1 billion people, and we can't keep destroying farmland. Farmland is an important natural resource. We're environmentalists. We work to take care of it every day. And I appreciate land steward's sincerity, but you can't put it back the way you found it. It's impossible. I mean, tile lines are going to settle. The drainage systems are not going to be as efficient as they were. It's just a fact. We really need to follow the existing pipelines, and they do seem to veer off at times for strange reasons. So I would strongly encourage to stay in the original easement next to the 3 lines that currently cross both counties. Thank you.
Next speaker is Nathan Fisher.
Hi, my name is Nathan Fisher. I own a property across the street from one of the easements that you guys are planning on following over by the Putty Gut Compressor Station. I am actually a UA welder, so I've worked on many compressor stations and pipelines in my career so far. I do agree with most people here that saying that I believe that the pipeline should follow most of the easements that are already established, and that this does bring a lot of work to many of us employees that do construction, and it does bring money to our economy here in Michigan, and that I just would like to say that I approve for the pipeline to come through to help provide for my family. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Barry Datebridge.
Good evening. I'm Gary Detheridge, Detheridge, Hadley Township, Lapeer County. Our biggest concern with this proposed pipeline is granting Rover a certificate of public necessity and convenience when there is no necessity and is only convenient to them. As a country, the U.S. keeps on saying we need to be energy independent. Last year, the U.S. imported 2.785 trillion cubic feet of natural gas from Canada. Why would we build a pipeline exporting our natural resources when we should be using it here at home? Rover should be building a pipeline that supplies American cities rather than one to Canada. Rover states that the majority of the gas being transported will stay in the U.S. Only 18% will be used in Michigan. If this is true, then why is the pipe running through the last 6 counties of Michigan after the final drop-off point still a massive 42-inch, 1,400 psi line? These 6 counties will get no benefit from this line other than hardship and devastation of their properties. Canadian consumers are importing less gas from the U.S. than in 2012. Year-to-date, as of July, we're 4.6% lower than the same time last year. This appears to have reversed the trend of significant natural gas import growth in recent years, particularly through southern Ontario, which is exactly where Rover is headed. Land use. Rover states that they maximize use of existing utility corridors. According to their own draft resource report, of the 209 miles proposed in Michigan, only 4.1 miles will be run in open land. They describe open land as utility right-of-ways, open fields, vacant land, herbaceous and scrub shrub uplands, non-forested lands, emergent and scrub shrub wetlands, golf courses, and municipal land. I don't think that 4.1 miles of 209 miles is maximizing the use of existing utility corridors. We've requested, and has our township and county, that they use existing ITC corridor that is a half a mile north of the proposed route. Elba Township, who only has 4 affected properties, has even asked that the ITC corridor be used, which would then run the pipeline the entire length of Elba Township. Rover point blank has told our county commissioners that they are not interested and will not use this right away. They want their own easement. Rover is asking for properties that are not theirs. They should be made to use easements that are already existing. The existing ITC corridor is already clear-cut and will be a straight line across most of Lapeer County. Using the proposed route would entail cutting down large, heavily wooded and forested areas. The proposed route looks like a 7-year-old trying to connect the dots with the wooded areas along the route. In Rover's draft resource report, 34% of the route in Lapeer County would be forested, wooded land. This is absolutely unacceptable. Using our alternative route, there would be less environmental impact, fewer bends and turns in the route, which would mean less welds, less resistance in the pipe, and a decreased chance of a leak. Please decline their certificate, if not for the entire project, at least through the last 6 counties of Michigan going to Canada. Thank you very much.
James T. Weiner.
Hello, I'm James T. Weiner. I'm the current president of the Southeast Michigan Land Conservancy. At mile 136 and 137 of the proposed route, they plan on, ET Rover plans on going directly through a 540-acre nature preserve. We've gone through some steps to try and minimize that. Nature preserve contains unique natural features that are unique to the area, to Southeast Michigan. It contains about 200 acres of wetlands, 2 lakes, 150, 200 acres of upland hardwood. They would affect maybe 25, 30 acres of the 540, but the original route that was planned was going through a unique natural glacial moraine that was unique to the area. And it was original. It hasn't been disturbed. We're going to try and minimize. We've allowed ET Rover to get onto the property, but the property is by a conservation easement. Is protected by a conservation easement. There is no way they can do that, go through that without, and we cannot grant them permission to go through our property. It will require a court order and condemnation. And we will fight. The biggest question right now I have, again, like this previous speaker, and again, with what's happened before, is what's happening in these last 6 counties, the last portion of the property, or of the planned pipeline. In 2012, and which was finalized in 2013, ET Rover abandoned a pipeline directly through the area that I understand that goes to Marysville. They could have repurposed that line for this project, especially if only 18% of the gas or 20% of the gas is going to what do you call it? Instead, they filed a certificate that the property wasn't necessary and that the pipeline wasn't necessary. And that goes right to their filing. They said it wasn't necessary less than a year ago. They let it go through. What changed? What changed? That's my big question. What changed in the year that in terms of the natural gas markets? I don't understand. Under Michigan law, and I understand this is federal law, there would be a significant finding that something significant changed in the markets, in the necessity. I'm sure this pipeline has been under development for many years. These pipelines, these routes do not just come out of thin air. I'm assuming they've been planning it for well over a year, if not several years. Why now do they apply for a certificate of necessity, saying when just a year ago they said that the pipeline wasn't necessary, and it wouldn't be reasonably necessary in the future. And now I find out that the Vector pipeline, there's another pipeline going through the plan to go through the area that will be in existing rights of way, and it follows substantially the same route out to Marysville. My question is this last this last 6 acres. Why? Because it will not supply any gas to Michigan. From the side, that's my understanding, anyways. From this Shiawassee pump metering station on, and there's a significant issue. Why? Why is it necessary? Especially if the Vector pipeline goes through, which I do understand is going through existing right of way. Again, there's a substantial questions in my mind about necessity, and then there's the impact on Lost Lake. Originally, back in September, when I went to a public meeting, representatives of ET Rover said, "You have a conservation easement on your property? We won't go through it." We'll change the route. Month and a half later, they hadn't done it. We then found and said, we've looked, and they say they looked. We can't reroute it. However, they had already rerouted it. They had already rerouted it from central Oakland County up to northern Oakland County where Lost Lake is. So they already rerouted. There are alternatives to the route. And I really think that that the EIS, the Environmental Impact Statement, must evaluate the original route that they proposed and this route and the impacts. And it must very, very carefully look at the necessity of the project, especially in light of the other pipelines that are being planned to go through the area on existing rights of way that will have significantly less environmental impacts. So, and again, I speak as a representative landowner. SMLC will be opening up that property to the public for nature study, for hiking, for the public's enjoyment. It is a unique natural feature for northern Oakland County, and it's a unique natural and southern Genesee County. We've already had significant interest from it for educational purposes. We know that it has been archaeological digs have been on it going back, and they found very significant potential of indigenous peoples, old hunting and camping sites. There is a significant amount of impacts that will be made, and we just don't want this property disturbed at this time. We want to maintain it as a natural, in its most natural state. And I understand that, and I'd rather see the vector pipeline go through, because it will go through existing rights of way. It will go through areas that are already disturbed. It's very, very important that we don't disturb any more land. Thank you.
The next speaker is John Heidelberg.
Hello, I'm John Heidelberg, Heidelberg. I've been a union laborer for 13 years. I was local 1191 Detroit. I'm a property owner. I'm also a farmer. I have a hay field on an existing pipeline on the area proposed. And the hay field and working the hay field, I seem to be, after the work's been done, the field's been put back together better than it was before. I'm able to produce more hay. It's been wonderful having the opportunity of working with pipeline companies that come through the backyard and through my property, and work with them with any problems, any drainage problems, to kind of better my hayfield and my property, and to fix any problems that there might be with the topography of the land. As a union laborer, being a union laborer is not quite a great deal to me. It's made a great person out of me. It's given me health care. It's given me home ownership, education and training. Been able to work with wonderful people, great people that I probably would have never had an opportunity to work for as a union laborer. As a property owner, I look forward to working with Energy Transfer Partners on this project, both as someone that does pipeline work and someone that is a property owner. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Kelly Brinker. Kelly Brinker. We'll move on to Carol Bila. Carol. Carol Chi.
Good evening. Thank you for letting us speak on this issue. My name is Carol Chi, that's C-A-R-O-L-E-C-H-I. I'm a retired public school science teacher and art teacher, and I'm a homeowner in southern Macomb County. And I just wrote some comments as people were speaking, different people. And it's not true that solar will not be up and running until 2040. One gentleman said that. Not true at all. Look at Germany, look at China, several other countries, look at the southern United States, there's lots of solar. In fact, Florida is so upset, the Florida governor is so upset about solar power that he's trying to regulate it, trying to outlaw it, trying to fine people that use solar power, which is ridiculous. If FERC is doing anything, you should try to get him to stop doing that, or have Eric Holder have him stop doing that. It's ridiculous. Have the congressman there stop doing that, the congresswoman. Florida should not fine or outlaw it, neither should any other state. No one should outlaw solar energy. We have enough solar energy and wind energy. There's enough solar power and wind power in the whole world to run the entire world without fossil fuels. Remember, natural gas is a fossil fuel. It's not clean, it's methane. It's not clean at all. In fact, methane is going to speed up by 8 times speed up climate change. Now, if you want to live with poison above you and all around you, I don't think we're going to be able to breathe in that kind of world. So, and it's a very limited resource, just like the oil. It's amazing that the world has practically used up fossil fuels that were available to us in 100 years. It's only been 100 years. So wasteful in so many ways. And natural gas is not a bridge to solar, as some people have said. It's not a bridge at all. We could go right to solar right now, right to wind right now. And as far as construction jobs, now I'm union, I'm a retired teacher. I was in the MEA, I was also in the AFT when I worked in Detroit for 6 years. Worked out in Clinton Township for another 17 years. And I believe in jobs, absolutely, but they're temporary, not part-time. We didn't say part-time, they're temporary jobs. And what about all the construction jobs that could be done? Repairing the bridges, the roads, all kinds of things like that. Question about the pipeline. It's not whether the pipeline is going to fail, but when. Because eventually all pipelines fail, and many of them, I think it's like 10%, fail in the first year. No matter what they say, oh yes, we're going to watch it, where you're going to have somebody standing there watching every few feet all day long, 24/7, 365 days a year, I doubt it very much. We have to remember here in Michigan, 20%, and you may not know this, if you're not from Michigan, if you've never gone up to the Great Lakes, if you've never gone up to Great Lake Superior, or over to Lake Michigan, or over to Lake Huron, or Lake Erie, or Lake Ontario, you might not realize what we mean when we say Michigan is the Great Lakes state. You might not realize the quantity of water that is there. And it's all well and good to say, well, it's just natural gas, we're going to pipe it here, pipe it there. But that's through fracking in the state of Michigan. And we hold 20% of the world's fresh surface water. And it's clean because of the wetlands that we are so quickly destroying all over Michigan because they're too small, or they're not right next to a Great Lakes. They're not right next to a body of water. That is such a mistake. It is so short-sighted. Water is such a precious resource. It's more precious than energy. It truly is. Because we have solar, we have wind. We should take advantage of that. It's free, in a sense, until you get it coming into your house and whatever. So wetlands are crucial. That's why we have clean water in the Great Lakes and all around us. If natural gas and the extraction of it were so safe, if natural gas was so safe and the extraction was so safe, then why are we not all made aware of what they're pumping into the grounds? Why is it so secretive? Former Vice President Dick Cheney has disallowed it by law. Oh no, you can't disclose what we're pumping into the ground, into Michigan's ground, because we have such a huge area of shale. We can't disclose that. Why not? If it's so safe, I don't understand that. And even geologists, and I study geology, even geologists don't realize you can't see everywhere that the Great Lakes are connected to the shale pockets, and when they fracture that, when they break up all that rock to release the natural gas, how is it connected to the Great Lakes? Because it probably is. Right now, the Great Lakes are lower than they've been in a while. Well, we've got the Nestle Corporation up at, I'll show you. They're up here in Michigan. They're up here pumping water out for free. They don't pay a dime to Michigan. I bet they pay lots of dimes, lots of dollars, maybe millions of dollars to different people, like to the Democratic and the Republican parties, especially the Republican Party, because John Engler is the one who let them do this. So now they're pumping water like crazy to sell bottled water, and they're not paying for it, and the Great Lakes are going down because it's probably connected to the well. If indeed their wells don't go at a diagonal to the Great Lakes, to Lake Huron, to Lake Michigan, because that's where they're at, right there. Governor Snyder said, as far as, well, if the fracking, if it pollutes the waters of Michigan, let them drink bottled water. What are we supposed to do? Bathe with it also? Pour bottled water on our heads? Wash our cars? Wash our families? Launder our clothes with bottled water? Is that what we're supposed to do when all the water in Michigan and around has been destroyed? It's so short-sighted, it's unbelievable that you would even consider this, that people are considering fracking under the whole lower peninsula, because that's where most of the shale is. But we're surrounded by Great Lakes. 20%, let me repeat, of the world's fresh surface water. And if you don't think water's precious, well, just ask the people in the Maldive Islands. They've gone dry now. They're dying for water. And they are in other countries too. Look at any arid country. Curacao, the Middle East, all kinds of places. They're fighting, they're killing each other over water. We don't realize what great resources we have here. We're just looking at the shale, because you keep on getting pushed by the corporations, the wealthiest, the 1%. Oh yeah, our energy company, we want to make money off of that. Who cares about Michigan? We don't live there anyway. We've never been there to appreciate what we have here already. And there's a gigantic methane cloud. There's a gigantic methane cloud right now over southwestern United States. Are we going to have that here? And just last night I saw on Twitter, there's a methane plume coming up out of the ocean off the coast of Washington, the state of Washington. And that's due to climate change. When the air warms, the water warms, the methane comes up from underground, just on its own. More pollution. So I'm definitely against this. Thank you.
Next speaker is Nancy Rover.
My name is Nancy Beaufay, and I live north of the Detroit water line. And I don't know if you're aware of it, but that goes through a muck area. And just a few years back, they had a problem with that line, and they tried to fix it, and they had a hard time because of unstable soils. So when you're saying you're going through muck, and if you have a problem, it can be very hard to fix.
We do not have anyone else signed up to speak. Would anyone else like an opportunity who has not had opportunity to speak on the record? Please come up and state your name for the record.
I'm Eric Reeve, R-E-E-V-E. I'm a retired federal environmental scientist and industrial hygienist. I volunteer on a local hazmat team for St. Clair County. I'm also a chairman of our planning commission for a local township. I was not planning on speaking tonight, but I have some concerns
or thoughts here that I need to bring to the table. One person mentioned tonight that Vector is running a pipeline through the county, which is a true statement. It's kind of replacing, but they're not necessarily abandoning completely the previous line there. They're going to use it for surge if needed for capacity purposes, but they're planning to convert to the new line. Currently at this time, if I may be misquoted, but there is at least 7 pipelines of different commodities going through St. Clair County in different directions. The reason I know that is I'm an emergency responder. Different diameters, different commodities. My thought is I encourage, for those purposes, not only from the standpoint of protecting the land, which I think needs to be looked at seriously, but I think we need to consolidate all of our pipelines and infrastructure as much as possible so that they can be easily managed and policed. If we have them scattered all over the neighborhoods, running through different properties and doing different things, it's awfully hard to keep up with. With the amount of people from the different pipeline companies that routinely police these right-of-ways as required by law, if we have another competitor's pipeline and something going on, somebody as part of that policing operation should catch it, because they do have readable signs that show up when there is a malfunction, either through monitoring and or discoloration or foliage loss or something like that when a pipeline deteriorates. So I encourage that those routes be looked at, reassessed, and put through on existing right-of-ways wherever possible. Thank you.
Would anyone else that hasn't had opportunity like to speak? If you would, please say your name for the record.
Gary Kreisel, China Township, 6580, Kreusel. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I also didn't think that I would speak tonight, but I do think that I have some information that you folks really need to hear. A little history of myself. I worked for Consumers Energy as a union employee for 37 years. Did a lot of different types of jobs. Storage, transmission lines, measurement. A lot of rules and regulations that we were required to study and do and test to pass in order to keep our jobs. On the other hand, I'm a property owner. And recently, why I'm here tonight is actually for my mother-in-law. This pipeline is proposed to go across her property. At first, she wasn't treated very courteous at all. It always seems to come up that if you don't agree with what we have to say, we have the power of eminent domain, which is a personal problem with myself because the Vector line, as you speak tonight, they're trying to go across my place again. They went across several years ago for the Milford 36-inch diameter pipe loop. My property had 2 lines on it. They were Michigan lines, which is now DTE, before I bought it, 65 and 68. They had no rights to go across my property. They could remove the line, they could improve the line, they could maintain the line. I had very good lawyers that represented me. They told me to document everything. I have probably 200 or 300 hours of video. My property is on the Bell River. They said they would not be on the property. They were going to directional bore it. They did. It failed. Drilling mud boiled in the river. The river itself, bottom, rose over 10 foot high. dammed it off. I took my family and moved out. They did it twice. I had lots and lots of meetings with them. Like I said, I have a little background. I'm no engineer, just a union worker. I like the union. I think the guys did good jobs. But the bottom line is, you know what runs America? It's not energy, it's dollars. That's what runs America. That's what runs the world. Who's got the money? That's what runs this country. Energy has been abused and still is being abused. All these companies are in competition with each other to make the most money for their shareholders or their CEOs or whoever's going to make all the money. I would hate to be in your position to make the decisions that you have to make, because our economy needs this. We need natural gas, whether it's only for 5 years or 10 years or whatever. We need to be independent of foreign countries. But on the same token, I'm raising a family and now grandkids on my place. I know this isn't the vector line. You're saying run the existing right-of-ways. I'm on an existing right-of-way. We had a heck of a winter last winter. Unheard of for cold. Unheard of for snow. As I said, I'm on the Bell River. I had extensive settling on the pipeline. I called Michigan, who runs the line for Vector. Could not get a response. Okay? Finally, a guy shows up. I think it's them. No, they want to run another line. It's a guy with a map. They know all the answers. I tell them my problems. Yes, we will send somebody. Next person, surveyors for the line. I say, hey, you're not coming on in place until you fix the last problems stuff. Again. I finally get a representative from Michigan. They put enough heat on him, he came. They all agreed. Hey, you've got quite a bit of settlement here. Hey, this ground's moving. Hey, there's something wrong. I said, yeah, let's put in a little wells and let's mark the elevation of the line. Those two existing lines are 50 and 60 years old. They put immense amount of energy on those lines. I have yet to get an answer from Michigan. They have not returned my call. They have not come. I've run the surveyors off twice, okay? And the reason why you get no cooperation, eminent domain. They know they can and will take your property for what they call a reasonable, fair offer, which is not true. The first line you went across my property before it was mine, the guy got a couple $100. You know, I can't do nothing with that. Do you know what that, and it's gonna go forever. If I get $5,000, and that's what I got, and I had to sign the check due to my attorneys, okay, from the last one, they've got rights to that forever. Do you know what that works out to be? A farmer rents acreage by the year. He pays every year. I asked these people, I said, give me a penny for every MCF that goes through here. We'll call it good. Oh, you're joking. I said, better yet, I will offer you the same thing you're offering me. You buy the property, you pay the taxes, you give me the lease forever and all of my heirs forever, that I can do what I want with it. Huh. No, that doesn't work for the average guy. It's money. I understand that these people want their union jobs. They want to do a good job. They're going to hire local. They're going to keep all this going. You have a decision to make whether or not it's good for the environment. It was my property that they found the clams that the people talked about in the Bell River. That was my property. The environmentalists found it. I asked them not to allow them to put gas through that pipeline until my damages were settled. Not settled to today yet. Now that sounds terrible because I worked in the industry for 37 years. I was the one that patrolled these lines. Just a few miles west of where we stand today, they were putting in tile. Maybe they didn't call mistake, maybe it got missed, whatever. Blew that 20-inch line up. Okay? Yeah, the guys got hurt. Sure. I don't know if the guy died or not, but he was in the hospital for a long time. They repaired the line. Okay? Put it back in service and blew the line up 20 miles down the road. Putting it back in service. Accidents happen. One gentleman said 99.99.95% safest way. Okay, we learn from our mistakes. I can't help but feel from seeing all the different sides, whether it be the lawyers, whether it be the environmentalists, whether you want solar, wind, however it is, our climate is changing. You know, did it do this 100 years ago? Yeah, maybe so. I don't know all the answers, but I do know one thing. As a property owner, I have not been treated fairly. And the law stands behind the people with the money. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Please come down and say your name for the record, please.
My name is Richard Donahue. I'm from Lapeer County, and I'm a landowner. And again, everybody has been very eloquent and precise here tonight. But I do want to tell you that this is the second meeting I've attended. I was at the Flint meeting last night. And for the people that are sitting here that don't want this pipeline, what we need to do, that E.T. Rover has done, and what FERC does, they're very organized. They have quoted figures, they've quoted statistics, they made promises that nobody can verify or follow up later on. So before you leave tonight, if you're really opposed to this pipeline, stop by, give me your phone number, and let's get somebody organized so that we can counterbalance what we've heard here tonight, whether it's the economics professor from 3 years ago or wherever, or the guy from Ohio that, you know, he's an expert. So if you want to change this, you got to do more than just come to these meetings.
Thank you. So quickly, please say your name for the record.
My name is Lloyd Lewis, L-L-O-Y-D, and I'm representing operating engineers, and I'm supporting this line for all the jobs it'll bring in to this area. They're temporary, but our members use temporary jobs day in, day out, and they make their livelihood and living doing temporary jobs. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. So I quickly mentioned the FERC website. It's www.ferc.gov. Within our website, there is a link called eLibrary where you can get all of the information on the project under docket number PF 14-14. You can also e-subscribe. That's also a link in FERC's website where you can sign up to get an email every time something's filed in the docket. On behalf of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, I'd like to thank you for coming tonight. This meeting is adjourned.